And we're live. You can welcome the Queen Natalie herself, ContraPoints, which
Hi.
is actually funny enough the name of the hangout.
Oh gosh.
It's when I hosted Steve Shives, I did, and the one and only legendary Steve Shives.
Well, Steve is a legend, to be fair.
Yeah. Um, Steve was one of the people who gave me my start, although Kevin Logan arguably even more so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Kevin
what's
Logan.
this? What's the story?
Oh, Kevin Logan in July of 2016. So this was more than a year and a half ago. Or no, this was about a year and a half ago, actually. Hosted a hangout with me at my request after I had exchanged some Slipknot memes with him on Twitter. Um,
Is there a
he
vibrant like Slipknot community on Twitter?
no, I'm a very big metal and new metal fan, and
Uh,
um, I saw that I saw a video from Kevin Logan about being one, and so I did a really dumb meme about a Slipknot song, and yeah, that while I had actually talked to him a little bit before on Twitter, he kind of like would sporadically. Yeah, I'm not even sure if I'm using that word correctly, but he would be on like sporadically to
sounds correct
respond.
to me.
But yeah, he was also the first subscriber who wasn't someone I knew in real life. That's
It's an
yeah,
important milestone.
I think that's kind of funny because I had already been familiar with his channel at that point.
Hmm.
But yeah, at my request, he had been like, "Sure, I'd like to host a hangout. I have nothing I'm doing on that day." So, he hosted me on his channel, and we just kind of sat and talked and like, or shut, yeah, we just kind of sat down and shot the shit for like an hour, and we kind of became friends from there. Yeah, I think Kevin Logan's older than you. I mean, you're not really that old though.
I'm 29,
29.
which is
That's
old
10
by
years.
YouTube
That's 10
standards.
years older than me.
Yeah.
That's 10 years older than me. My channel technically started before I even turned 18. And
Yeah.
then I had a channel before that that started when I was 16. That was just under my name. And fucking, I said the whole everybody is racist shit before Milo Stewart did. Why did I not get that internet recognition? I
I don't
mean, I
know.
did get a few trolls who found the video and then said that it happened, but I mean, I bet that it has to do with like production value and the fact that Milo already had a following at the time.
Yeah. I think
I said mine offhand.
YouTube
Oh,
is kind
sorry.
of run by 22-year-olds, and or certain sectors of it are, and it's important to keep that in mind. You get suddenly reminded of it sometimes when you see, for instance, like this Logan Paul drama of the past week. Like the whole thing is like very like early 20s, like frat boy behavior. Uh, that leads. It's weird being a little bit older on this website actually sometimes because like I kind of feel like I'm over it. I'm over this kind of stuff, but like
Yeah,
I'm in I find myself in the
but
midst of
you,
the children's crusade a lot of the time, and like,
yeah, think about the children.
yeah,
What's funny is that I'm like, I'm younger than that, but I don't really pay attention to that because that shit just, I would lose my sanity paying attention to that shit.
yeah,
And Paul do this time. Honestly, I didn't even know about the guy until fucking I heard everybody talking about what he did, and I'm like, holy shit, that was really fucking uncool.
yeah. I wasn't aware of him either. I don't follow that kind of YouTuber, um,
Yeah,
but I felt that when I watched his obviously the Nightmare and the Aokigara video, but also his like other Japan travel vlogs where he's kind of just like going around Japan, like throwing things at people, just behaving like a terrible jackass. Like,
look,
yeah, look, I'm a white
look, I'm
tourist
a
in
weeb.
Japan, behaving like a fucking asshole. Like, there's something very YouTube about this, right? Just like like story time, not clickbait. Like, whoa, a dead body. Like, let's do whatever for
Not
attention.
clickbait.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that this style of things definitely bleeds over into like the anti-SJW attitude toward politics. Like there was a stream yesterday that on Andy Worski's channel with Richard Spencer that I tuned
Yep.
into for
Richard
about 15
Spencer.
minutes. And I thought it was kind of like
Kevin Logan was in there for like 3 minutes in
hmm,
the actual chat.
I thought it was like the
Said,
sort of political equivalent of filming dead bodies for attention. Like was bringing
yeah.
the guy who organized a white nationalist hate rally and have him talk about our traps gay for $200 super chats from Nazis. Like it was
The
let's get
answer
Richard
is it
Spencer number
depends.
one trending on YouTube Live. Like that's it's like the exact kind of like indifference to actual consequences that
Yeah.
whoa man, a dead body. Like it's the same kind of thing.
Well, I mean, yeah, what's funny too is the whole traps are gay question. I would jokingly respond, or if someone asked me that question, like I know that what they're trying to imply is are traps men or women, but I would completely be like, well, because sexuality has nothing to do with gender, are traps gay? Depends on who they like. If they like women, they are. If they don't like women, they aren't.
Yeah, I mean it's a troll question. It's not worth answering. But
Yeah.
it's I mean if the question
Well,
really
I
is
like
asking
giving it. Yeah.
it's men asking is it gay to be sexually attracted to trans women?
Oh yeah,
Um,
I'm just gonna intentionally
yeah,
misinterpret their question
yeah,
because it
same.
really pisses them off.
Right.
It's like,
Well,
well,
I'm
no,
pretty
this is
gay,
what you
right?
asked me.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're like queen gay culture.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, the question that I asked you on your stream, you were pretty drunk. It was the New Year's stream, but I
Oh
said
God.
or I asked you if you would consider yourself like a lesbian or bisexual. And I that was actually a question that I've had for a while is like because like I've never actually or actually you never really said anything about your sexual orientation even before you came out.
Mhm. I was about a
Like
bottle
what
of champagne deep at that point. What did I say?
you said I would consider myself bisexual, and you
Yeah,
also talked about how like you really only want to go down on people due to dysphoria.
yeah. That's
Not
whiny wisdom, whiny truth.
yeah, you're not. Hey, you're not the only person in this room that has that feeling.
Yeah.
I've had that feeling since I like started really questioning my gender.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh
a
yeah, Worski
significant
made. Oh
area
yeah,
of life.
Worski made thousands of dollars off of that
Yeah.
stream too. Also, funny enough, I remember when you brought up that, or when there was a super chat, and I brought up that one of the people who kept donating to you had my dead name. Well, technically correct, although it's spelt differently than my actual dead name, which is Tristan, Tristan.
Hmm.
So I just kind of looked at it, and I would hear you go Tristan, and it's like I still respond to that name. So
Yeah.
I'm like, what did I do? Also, I was pretty stoned at that point too, so it was really fucking with me.
Yeah. Getting stoned and
the,
watching
the
ContraPoints live streams is a dangerous game.
get, Getting stoned and watching ContraPoints live streams is how ContraPoints live streams are meant to be
Yeah.
watched.
There's a certain amount of that going on, a certain amount of degeneracy going on in the chat in general.
Yeah. Well, also, I'm not allowed. Also, I'm technically not allowed to drink, but
Mm,
I've broken that law on stream before, uncaring. I'm allowed to drink in every other country, but
yeah.
America's got draconian laws.
Yeah. I
New.
certainly got that problem started before I was 21.
Oh yeah, I still remember your videos when you would like actually drink like liquor in the videos.
Mm,
Like I could tell that like you had actually been drinking liquor. Like you may have thought that you slipped it past, but I kind of looked at it. I'm like, oh, there's no way that that's like fake liquor. Like
yeah.
just the effect, like I could tell the effect that it was having on you, that it was actual liquor. It's like, why are you drinking a 40 ounce of malt liquor
Yeah, that one,
in a video?
the one about Milo Yiannopoulos where I drank an entire 40 of King Cobra while making it. Like you can clearly tell by the end of that video that I'm like kind of drunk.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, you're mannerisms change from like the beginning
Yeah.
of that video to the end of the video, where you have a bit more of an I don't care attitude.
I accidentally punched the wall.
Accidentally, in quotes.
Yeah.
That is, yeah, also on the New Year's stream, I definitely was not sober because I had been drinking with my grandmother and older brother all night
Ah,
at that
yes.
point.
Grandma New Year's drinking.
Yep. Yeah, I I only had one beer that night, but I had like 6 or 7 Black Russians.
That'll do it.
Yep. Yeah. I really do love your streams, and I'm glad that I found the ContraPoints live channel because otherwise I'd be constantly like looking at your channel, like, did a video come up yet? Did a video come out yet?
Yeah. Yeah, I do about um one video a month these days, so I do need to produce some kind of other content, I think, to keep
Yeah.
fans engaged. And the live streams
Well, I
are
mean, I
easy to
don't
do
really.
that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really do a lot of videos either. Like I do, I think a lot of my channel at this point is kind of live streams, as I've been told that people like to watch when I get other people onto my channel and talk to them.
Mhm.
Especially some of like the more communist people in my like who watch me because they like to see when I get more liberal people on and kind of get their thoughts on things because or more like the people that are more like known for social justice but don't really kind of talk about more economic policy and don't talk more about politics. They
Mhm.
like to get because I'll ask questions about like economic positions and stuff like that. I won't like grill someone on them, but like I'll just kind of like ask gently about it.
That's a good thing to do. Yeah, it's sometimes people on the far left will be very they won't want to platform even liberals, and that I think is probably self-sabotage. Yeah,
Liberals get the
liberals
bullet
get the ball
too.
too. Yeah,
That fucking attitude.
it's not a good
I
attitude, I
mean,
don't think.
like, yeah, the idea that like I completely get that like liberal like liberals who own corporations. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that they need to be killed necessarily, but I'm not gonna like mourn when they lose their business. Oh no, you lost your business, which was slightly in favor of gay rights.
Yeah.
You know that like rainbow capitalism is still capitalism.
Mhm.
It's not anything radical.
Yeah, that's something I
Which
might talk about if I do my next, because started that series of videos on capitalism. I've thought about talking about that in my next video about like the way that, because I think it's kind of complicated, right? I think a lot of like LGBT people who are sort of far left have mixed feelings about rainbow flags at Target and so on, because on the one hand, when you live in a capitalist society, like that is the way you get recognition and the way you make progress is through like the system that you're in. And so like there's a sense in which for you in the society that you're in, like a Target Pride Week or whatever is like actual progress. um, but there's another sense in which, of course, the reason
why
they're
does
only
it
behaving
have
like
to
this
be
because they've
this?
decided that LGBT people are a
Are
market,
profitable?
yeah, are a market that they can sell things to.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's
It's kind of
interesting.
like you feel it can feel a bit demeaning at times that like really your or that you're just a target demographic in capitalism and that no that like
Yeah.
you know nobody seems to really care about you.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's interesting because it's true that this is also, like I said, the way you kind of get things done, like within the system, because you have like there's a tradition in your society that says these people are degenerates, and then at some point someone says, well, hold on, like I think we can sell products to these people, and like that's the point where things change. Of course it's not the whole story, but like that often is part of like what accompanies a cultural shift in our society, right? Is the
Yep.
people deciding to sell things to you.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah,
it's kind of like you want a rainbow flag, but at the same time, you want to be like, but fuck Target.
yeah.
Also, Only Bro 555 asked, how can we change Japan's work culture or work and sexist or wait, work and sexiest culture? I think it's basically like the culture around work and their gender politics. That's what I'm going about. So apparently that's an issue that
I
that
don't think we can
they
do
want both
anything
of
to
us to
change it.
talk
I think
about.
Japanese people have to take that up for themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that that's mostly the case. I would say that really you can only have a minimal effect as someone outside of Japan in actually getting positive changes for people in Japan.
I mean, people sometimes ask
But
me like,
that's
"Oh, well, what do you want? What are you going to do about female genital mutilation in North Africa?" Like nothing. Like like North Africans have to do
not
that. Like it's not my lane.
yeah, not
Yeah,
nothing. I can't. It's not close enough for me to actually do anything. It's not feasibly possible for me to do anything about this situation. You know, it's also that tends to generally be like a silencing tactic that a lot of anti-SJWs uses. It's like, well, you know, what about the gay people
yeah,
getting thrown off of videos,
yeah. It's a red herring.
or getting thrown off of videos, getting thrown off of buildings? It's like, well, I can't fucking do anything about that except to maybe change America's immigration policy to allow those people a possibility to escape countries that want to kill them for being gay. You know,
Yeah, I mean, you also have a problem like up to the problem with kind of Western efforts at doing LGBT activism, for instance, on behalf of African nations or Asian nations, like is that you know, often within these countries, there's an attempt by the establishment to represent LGBT rights as being a fundamentally Western cultural imperialist project. Um, so it's not because, of course, there are LGBT people in these countries within these cultures, but any efforts by Americans, I feel like, to do any more than provide an allying and supporting role is like it gives credence to this accusation that this is only the meddling of Americans, for instance.
yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, really, all you can do is provide support. You can't really, you know, you can't do their activism for them. Also, especially
Yeah,
when, as you've said, a lot of people, a lot of nations that are kind of portraying themselves as leftist that might have these problems will be like, well, no, or you know, not even necessarily leftist, pseudo leftist, but fucking, you know, places that prop themselves up as against imperialism. They'll be able to
yeah.
say, oh no, this is just gay rights are just American imperialism.
Yes, that's
And
exactly right.
yeah.
And it's true that
Also,
a lot
I'm
of
going
times
to
these gay
quickly
rights
answer a
movements.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to quickly answer a question in the comments, which is ContraPoints, American anarchists. Do either of you think there's a practical way to reach out to someone as right wing as the average American and shift the Overton window our way? Yeah, workers' activism. That's kind of the point of workers' activism, is that you fight for general rights of workers, and you know that affects the majority of the majority of right wingers and the majority of left wingers, regardless of which way you look at it. You know, the majority of right wingers are working class, and if you want to shift their views on what the left is, you know, getting putting yourself out there as a workers activist very much can very much help. At least
I mean,
that's my
what I
opinion
yeah,
on it.
what I've done with my channel since the beginning was precisely aimed at doing exactly that thing, which is try to reach out beyond the kind of circle of usual leftist allies and to reach to people who have these concerns about like political correctness invading campuses, or like SJ. At the time I started making videos in early 2016, this was like they were still dealing with this, but like it was the major controversy of the day. It's like, oh, campus SJWs, the erosion of free speech
They're
on
even more of a
campus,
threat than
activism,
neo-Nazis.
um, and trying to sort of get over these caricatures of the views held by these groups. This idea, because often people aren't very educated about basic concepts in social justice. So to try to convey to people like what is structural racism in the United States, because a lot of people just have no idea like about the history of it and about the present situation of it, or what is it that that like queer activists or non-binary people are saying about themselves, because people mostly have contact with this series of kind of cliched caricatures like 57 genders, I identify
Well,
as
I mean,
a attack helicopter and so on, and it makes this
my
stuff like
favorite
very easy to dismiss without actually considering. But
that has to be my favorite joke was the attack helicopter one that you made on your channel where you're like where you read it out, it goes, I identify as an attack helicopter, and you just start laughing like it's clearly partially fake at the very least. And you go, that's funny because you can't bring a helicopter into combat.
yeah, well, these people like what's frustrating about it is that they think they're being very funny, but it's essentially just like a copy pasta, right? Like it's the
Yep.
same joke that's been going on for years, just iterated again and again and again. And like, but so the question though is, how do you reach people who are doing that? Like, so a lot of them you can't reach, of course, because they don't give a shit. They're not even remotely open to considering what you have to say. So those people, just ignore them. But there are some people who like, they simply haven't heard any different. And like, if you can kind of like shatter their initial expectation about what you're going to be like, and part of that I think involves like acknowledging and sort of like responding to before you even get started the kind of preconceptions that they have, right? That you're going to get this helicopter thing, so okay, start with that and then flip it around, and then work on someone's assumptions from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought or I've always thought that is like a very important thing to do, is to try and like basically try and provide like a non-stereotype that they can latch onto.
Yeah.
It's like people when they find out that their kids are gay, some of them might be like, well, maybe I've been wrong about gay people. Some of them might disown their kids, but that can, but it has somewhat of a rate of success where it says like, hey, look, this is a very real thing. It makes it a bit more real for them. And also the 57 genders point, I have to say that I've always found that funny, because that's literally just anti-feminists like missing what's actually being said, where we're not saying there's like a set number of genders. One of the points is that like we're saying that gender is a bit more complicated than what genitals you were born at and what sex you are. And even then, sex itself is a bit more complicated, as there are plenty, while they may be abnormalities, they do exist.
Well, often there's a kind of
0.01%
like,
of people on Earth.
yeah, because
Yeah.
it is a fundamentally
0.01% of
straw man argument,
sorry.
right? Because first of all, they often don't. These are people who often have no kind of concept of gender that's at all sophisticated. So they, a lot of times these are people who haven't even
gender is penis or
they haven't even gotten to the point of distinguishing biological sex from social roles, from like psychological identity. So it's true that it would be sort of preposterous to propose there's precisely 57 genders that we've discovered. Like, no, because part of what being a gender is,
scientists just looked under a microscope to see if there were extra genders, and they're like, oh, there's like 57 of them that we can count.
So there's an inability to kind of understand like the function of the language that activists use, or understand like why teenagers suddenly like this stuff. Because in a sense, like how many genders are there like in American society anthropologically? I mean, basically two, right? You have two options that you're given.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to have to choose neither or something else? Well, it means, I mean, in the first place, it means a pretty like radical like individual rejection of what society, what social structures are in place.
Yep.
Um, but the idea
Well, it
that
also seems like
that
you're actually
yeah,
making a. It also
because
feels like you're making a choice and gives you a feeling of autonomy too,
yeah, but when
in
people are
saying
just
this is
yeah,
how I feel.
and when people are
So
describing
like,
themselves as neutral or like um, cloud gender or whatever, like these are efforts at putting words to a kind of way of relating to gender that I don't think are really properly understood as themselves being a gender, right? Sorry, not like a gender as in no gender, but like I'm not sure that it's quite exactly correct to say that like cloud gender is a new gender. Like it's more of a label that people have come up with as a way of describing their their gendered experience or their
yeah,
how they think about their own gender situation. So yeah, it's kind of I think but of course the frustration is that you have a lot of commentators on this on YouTube, for instance, who don't really care about what people think or want or feel. They're just looking to entertain an audience by laughing at a thing for money a lot of the time. And two, um, a lot of times, like the kind of like Tumblr contingent of this is not like at all interested in explaining themselves to the public at large or explaining themselves to people who don't believe. So there is a genuine deficiency of sort of material out there that explains this stuff in an intelligible way to outsiders.
yeah.
So that's one of the things my channel was supposed to do early on was kind of play that role, is to take the Tumblr stuff and then like
Kind of like make
rhetorically
it a
rework
bit.
it and present
Yeah,
it in a way that's like comprehensible to the normies.
the normies.
Yeah,
I always find that word funny.
it is funny.
Normies.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of breaking or taking the Tumblr stuff and kind of breaking it down to what it's based on and kind of giving a basis is completely necessary, because if you're just looking at the Tumblr stuff, it does look fucking ridiculous to you.
yeah,
Like, even like people who aren't like who don't have authoritarian beliefs, even self-professed like libertarians, or I'm using it not as like the political philosophy of libertarianism, more referring to libertarian like as in people who kind of are like, well, I don't really care about what other people do, and they all of a sudden see this and they're thinking that this is something that's going to change in their science books, because they've already equated gender to sex, which is partially due to the education system we grew up in. But they've also not read stuff beyond biology 101 that's about sex, that says like, no, well, there's actually there's more sexes than just male and female in humans. There's a lot of intersex conditions that people can have.
yeah. So
That
there's
stuff.
a reductive, simplistic understanding of biology. Really, basically, it's just it's the presumption of a natural thing to explain their pre-existing assumptions, right? What I think feels natural, so it must be natural. I think is usually how it
Yeah,
goes, because a lot of times, like there really isn't, you can find people who are willing to have more serious arguments and argue that,
yeah,
properly understood, there really are only two sexes biologically, or whatever. But most of the people making this argument, like they haven't thought about it at all. So yeah, it's a matter, I think, it's partially a matter, as you say, of like ignorance. I think partially it's a matter of um, people who have a lack of interest in even improving their knowledge about it, because
yeah.
their motivation here
Oh,
is
I
just
think that it's
to laugh at
both.
people. Um, and then, of course, like
It is very much both.
another thing that I try to do with my channel, and that I think YouTube is very good for in general, is giving people, because so I'm a trans woman, and that's a category that is much more like prominent and reputable, I guess, in society than most of this like Tumblr stuff. But
Yeah,
even
then
still,
non-binary.
I think most people don't know any trans people. Maybe that's kind of changing, but like, I mean, even like 10 years ago, I didn't know any fucking trans people. Like, and um,
I guess I
it's
was
hard to
lucky to be
like,
part of the emo. I guess I was lucky to be part of like the emo goth crowd and kind of know a lot of people that were kind of
yeah,
confused about who they were. And something that I found out or something interesting that I found out recently is that statistically speaking, autistic people are more likely to be trans than neurotypical people.
yes, I think I saw on Gender Analysis, which is Zinnia Jones's blog. She just did an article about autism and transgender.
I had a bit of an internal groan there because I've Zinnia Jones has done some pretty questionable things as far as how she's treated the radical left.
Well, she's a big Hillary supporter. Which
Yeah,
I sort of I understand that she's maybe said excessive things in defense of Hillary voting. Um,
that's
I look
I
up to
mean,
her as a trans activist. I don't
yeah,
know allies perfect, and I'm pretty
yeah.
willing to forgive that kind of stuff. Though I understand
My
that, yeah,
issue
she's
or my issue is that I heard that or I have friends who are more in like the radical leftist community and know a bit more about
yeah.
this stuff. Apparently, she had basically taken part in some campaigns to basically harass trans women who were radical leftists because she actively believes that actively believes that communists are hurting the cause of trans rights.
I don't know anything about this. I don't know. I don't really want to gossip about Zinnia on stream.
Yeah. I don't want to gossip about it, but yeah, it's just I heard some stuff that has made me question my support for her. That's I was just explaining why I had a bit of like a groan there because I thought that it was audible. But yeah, you know, but yeah, her blog. She did a blog about autism and trans people,
Yeah,
and kind of
I mean, she's basically the only one I know on YouTube who's like has approaches the topic with academic rigor. Like she's the one who follows the science. She's the one who has the citations. No one else is really doing that, and it's really important to have someone who's doing that. Um, that's not really what I do. I have a different thing that I do. I mean, what I do is like combine. I try to combine a lot of this stuff with entertainment. To be honest, like I want to pull a big audience, and I want it to be pleasurable. And I think that
very pleasurable, very hedonistic.
yeah, right. I mean, fundamentally, I think about that when I'm making a video. I'm like, is this a video that I would have fun watching? And I want to make that kind of video because I think that, those of us who produce information type content, like we're producing it in a media landscape where you really had to fight to get people's attention and hold people's attention.
Yeah.
And there's so much content and there's so many voices that it's very easy to get drowned out by people who are less scrupulous than you. And there's no way that I can catch up with like, the Richard Spencer debate circus, for
Yeah.
instance. But
Fucking why would anyone debate Richard Spencer? Also, not to mention that the people he brought on to debate were Styx Hexenhammer
yeah,
666. A fat.
I mean,
So
to be
you have
fair, I don't think
another fascist
yeah.
who's you have
To be
another
fair, I don't think
fascist
no
debating him.
leftist was willing to touch that fucking thing with a 10-foot
No,
pole.
well, Dick Coughlin was, but then fucking Dick Coughlin got sick and then had to like
Yeah.
back out. He just
I would have
wasn't
enjoyed to
feeling well
see him.
enough.
I would have enjoyed seeing him shout profanities at Richard Spencer. That's too bad that didn't happen. I think Coughlin is actually
I
kind of the perfect candidate for this job because I trust Coughlin to treat the situation with the exact level of seriousness it deserves.
yeah. Oh yeah, Dick Coughlin. He can be problematic, but he's a very funny guy to watch, and he's definitely, I would definitely have him in my corner to fight Nazis.
Yeah.
The guy, the guy. It would have been funny to watch him like call Richard Spencer a wank stain and whatever else. Some stuff that I
Yeah.
dare not say.
Yeah, oh
I
yeah,
have to
exactly.
I do have
Yeah,
to kiss my mother with this mouth after all.
yes. This
Oh
doesn't
no,
seem to be
who the
a
fuck am I
concern.
kidding? I swear all the time, but
Well, Coughlin,
you know, British.
he's a really professional when it comes to the profanity. Like,
I come from a family of sailors, and even I don't know as many swears as
yeah.
Coughlin knows.
Well, he's had a prolific career of shouting profanities at people on the internet. He's experienced. You
Yeah,
gotta get another decade and a half of it behind you.
yeah. He's been on since like 2006.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's
No,
12 years that he's been on.
yeah,
I
he's
was
a
eight
true
years
veteran.
old when I was 8 years old when Coughlin was shouting profanities at people on the internet.
Yeah,
Like that's how long it's been.
that's true.
I'm almost 20 and I was 8 years old at the time. That you know, that's kind of where that goes. 12 years of dealing with fucking fash on the internet is going to definitely make you a much more cynical person.
Yeah, it's tough
Yeah.
to keep going in some ways.
Yeah, I remember. Didn't you actually do a hangout on Garrett's channel with Dick Coughlin, if I remember correctly?
Um, yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think I watched like most of it. I missed like the beginning of it, but yeah. By that point, I had become very interested in your channel, and I was always interested in Garrett's channel before
Mhm.
he kind of had his big meltdown. Although a little inside thing is that I knew Garrett, and he actively disliked me. From from all reads that I can get, blocking me on Twitter and Facebook usually sends the message of "I hate you."
I
That's
wouldn't
not the
take it.
message he was
I wouldn't
trying to
take,
send. I don't know what it was.
but for I wouldn't take it too personally.
No, I would. I didn't take it too
Yeah.
personally because I knew other people who knew him who, who know what he's like. So I just kind of, I didn't. I took it on the nose. I didn't really make a big deal out of it. But yeah, I always had a bit of an interesting relationship with Garrett, where I mean, I very much had like an admiration for his channel. It was very information based. It was very on topic, and to me, it had a bit of like a disconnection from the culture war that like I very much was a fan of.
Mhm.
Because because I've kind of gotten sick of the whole SJW versus anti SJW thing. I care way more about talking about leftism, talking about what I want, talking about what society we need, and not really debating with the right wing. I'm
Yeah,
not
the
doing my
anti-SJW thing
the
has gotten very boring, and I've stopped. I
yeah.
basically stopped talking about it as well. I'll sometimes tweet about it, but like I don't do videos about them
Yeah.
anymore.
Oh yeah, my War Corps debacle will is proof that like debates are absolutely fucking useless. A man with such a that man has such a thick skull.
I mean, you want to choose if you're going to do debates, you have to choose who you're going to do them with more
Oh, I did
carefully
it
than
because
that.
I did it because I expected it, or I had like basically called him out to do a debate because he was calling other people out to do a debate, and I'm like, it. Also, it was very early in my YouTube career. I
When
had
you have
not
only a
learned
small
by then.
audience, you can really get away with a lot in terms of who you talk to. That changes the
Oh
larger you
yeah,
get.
I I I had less than 200 subscribers at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, now I have 683 subscribers, so I'm not much bigger, but I'm big enough now that on Twitter I get put into like a lot of threads for like, oh, who are leftist YouTubers that you like?
Hmm.
The one janitor had one of those on Twitter, and I got brought up. Um, Actually, the stream that you had on Garrett's channel about whether or not about the whole Richard Spencer punch like
Hmm.
a while back. Um, so when Garrett was talking about how basically H Bomber Guy couldn't do the stream, my is some someone who watches this channel actually was like, well, what about, and put like, and tagged me. So, I'm minor in the background, but I mean, as far as leftist YouTube goes, I think I might be like mid tier. What's funny is that like upper tier, you start to get like the 10,000 subscribers, but like, anywhere from like 500 to 1,000 subscribers is like mid tier for a leftist
Yeah,
channel.
leftist YouTube is still quite small.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've found it kind of interesting because it feels a bit like I have a minor, like, that I'm a bit of like a minor internet celebrity in internet leftism, but like, other than that, like, it hasn't been something that's been majorly overwhelming, and I actually kind of like that.
Yeah, it's
Like,
it's
you know,
I used to think when I was younger that I wanted to be internet famous, and I'm not internet famous, but like I have enough of it that I already want not to have that
yeah.
anymore. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's like obviously it has perks. It's been like, I've been able to make a career out of it, which is really incredible, and I would never complain about
Oh
that
yeah. Well, I'm
aspect.
only raking it.
But it does
I'm
have,
totally raking in the dough at $33 a month.
it does have some serious negative effects in your life too.
Can you talk about Jason Unruh? Um, I think he's trash, transphobic trash. I think he's really bad at being a leftist. I have my issues with Marxism Leninism as a philosophy, but I don't. I think that Jason Unruh is not like on the same level as like Marxist Leninists. He's just like a really shitty person. Um, but I'm not sure if ContraPoints even knows who Jason Unruh is.
No comment.
No comment on whether or not you know him, or no comment on him.
No comment.
All right, I'll take that as no comment. Yeah, I did not expect that to come up. That is something that I have not been asked. Actually, I've never been asked that ever in a live stream. Like, I've been asked that on like Twitter and Facebook, where I'm very candid about my opinion of him.
Mm.
But yeah, that's all the time I'm willing to devote to him is 1 minute talking about that. Uh, no comment points. That's what's going on in the chat.
I mean, one thing you guys have to understand in the chat is that if I talk about someone on a stream, people will record that. They will tweet it at the person on Twitter. It's going to become a huge article of drama. So I just don't talk about other people on streams.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea because although really he's minor enough that I don't think it would that if anything what he would get from you would be worse than what you would get from him. But yeah, on my end that's not the same thing, but I mean, I also luckily have friends who aren't going to like, or I have an audience that isn't going to just record what I say and put it up and send it at the person. Because I also generally don't spend my time talking shit about people because it's kind of useless. It's, you know, meandering on people isn't exactly the greatest.
Yeah, and
Also, I
something you
just,
want to avoid on YouTube, I think, is focusing too much on people instead of thoughts and ideas and events. I mean, oftentimes it can be interesting to talk about people, and there are interesting characters involved in these conversations, and it can be interesting to talk about them for sure. But there's a temptation on YouTube often to just kind of depend on interpersonal drama for
yep,
your
this is
content,
about Anita Sarkeesian.
and
Yeah, it
it
starts
ends
to
up
become about
it's
Anita
essentially like,
Sarkeesian as opposed to
yeah,
being about feminism.
essentially what you're doing is making yourself into a contestant on like a reality show for people's entertainment. Um, which if you want to do that, okay, YouTube's a great place to do that, but it's personally not what I want to do. And so I actually have to
Yeah.
work and go out of my way to avoid becoming a contestant on the like, leftist Family Feud channel.
By the way, I never got around to asking you, how much do you make on like Patreon roughly? Like I imagine
No
it's
comment. I mean, check my Patreon page.
thousands. Oh yeah, that's right.
Enough.
I didn't think about that. I got. Do you want to hear how little I make? $33. I need to get a job.
Well, it's beer money.
That's uh, yeah, not beer money if you don't have a bank account and you can really only do transactions through PayPal. So you have to always ask your friends if you can send this to their PayPal so that they can get it on their credit card for you to use it.
Yeah, PayPal your friends. They can go. You can't buy beer anyway. You're 19.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying is that I'm underage.
Yeah.
Hey, actually, no, I'm too. It wouldn't be worth a 4-hour drive to get into Canada from here.
No.
I'm one half-hour train ride outside of Boston. Funny enough, driving would take the same amount of time to get there. Yeah, so I'm not that close to Canada. I'm close, but not that close.
I've never been to Canada. I'm gonna go there for the first time next week. I'm excited. To
Yeah,
Vancouver.
I heard that you're. Yeah, because Blair White backed out of the whole Theron Meyer and thing.
Yep. So it's just gonna be me and Theron now. Have our own little event.
Yep.
Should be fun.
Yeah. I can't say that I'm surprised that Blair White would like back out of something like this.
It's not
She's
the
always
first time
struck
it's
me.
happened.
Yeah, she's struck me as someone who kind of just wants to get attention. Fucking, I can't believe I decided to watch it because I was drunk enough that I decided to watch it. But I watched a feud between her and Onision, and I'm like, oh my god, Onision's being transphobic while criticizing shitty things that Blair White has done.
Yeah, that's
Blair White isn't much better. God damn it.
that's like top-notch
I
YouTube
have to.
drama content right there.
That's like I'm watching a sexual predator and a transphobe like fucking
Hash
arguing.
it out, yeah. Yeah. Welcome to YouTube. Look at this dead body, not clickbait.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's totally not clickbait. Except
Someone
for the
asks
fact that even if there is a dead body there, it's still clickbait.
if my interview is going to be filmed in Vancouver. Yeah, it's going to be filmed. It'll be up on the internet at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I also heard that you were going to be meeting up with people in Vancouver. When are you coming to Boston?
I would like to come to Boston. Are you in Boston?
Like I said, just one train ticket
yeah,
away,
yeah.
or a short car ride away. But yeah,
I spent 2 years in Boston when I was your age. Actually, I was at first I was a
in
student
college.
at Berkeley College of Music. Yeah,
Nice.
or the piano student for about 2 years. And yeah, I don't think I enjoyed
Explains why you know
Boston.
how to play so well.
Boston is a town that's like, it's a lot more fun if you're over 21, is the sense I always got. And I was never 21 in Boston, so there's kind of a limit on how much fun you have there. It's very cold too.
Hey, Philadelphia, it's easy to underage drink.
Yeah, because Philly's kind of that kind of city.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've heard, there are people who own shops who just don't care if you're underage and will not card you as long as you're like obviously not a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, whatever, you look old enough. Have a Four Loko.
Yeah.
Don't know why anyone would drink a Four Loko. Too much sugar. I prefer my booze taste like booze. Although fucking vodka tastes like fermented potatoes because that's what it is. Hey, regardless of what a vodka tastes like, that is a true statement because that is what it is. It's fermented potatoes.
I always thought vodka is a very just alcohol taste. It's very kind of pure tasting. Like I never really got a potato taste from any vodka that I know of.
Well, yeah, I'm being a smart ass because that's what it is. It's fermented potatoes.
Distilled.
Wine doesn't really taste like grapes. Although
No,
there's a little bit of a grape taste in it.
and the wine gets its taste from the skins of the grapes and the grapes themselves.
Yep. Uh, oh, I do love. Actually, there's the only like alcohol I've ever like turned that I've ever been like that's gross has been yeah, it was a gluten-free beer that my grandmother, her coworkers bought it for her, and she had to clear out the fridge before the holiday season at her work. So she brought home some beer, and yeah, one of them was a gluten-free beer, and it was really disgusting.
Yeah, how much gluten even is in beer in the first place? Doesn't it? I guess I don't know how I don't understand how gluten works, to be honest.
It's enough that it'll
Yeah, if
well,
you have
the thing is that it's enough that if you have celiac disease
yeah
that it's bad for you.
celiac. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the reason why it was gluten, or yeah, my grandmother can't eat gluten, so yeah.
Mm.
Although she's also not much of a beer person anyway. Um, my grandmother's more of the I spiked my Pepsi with vodka
Yeah, well,
kind of person.
it's a fine kind of person to be.
Uh, uh, honestly, I just have to say that fucking I'm surprised that I wasn't turned off from beer the first one I had because it was a Bud Light. Things like the things like Sex on a Beach, fucking so close to water.
Well, that might be a good way to start because it's very mild tasting. You probably don't want a triple IPA for your first beer. It's going to come as a shock.
All I can say is that uh, well, the thing is that I had already tried liquor before then, and I could like down a shot no problem. But drinking a beer, it was just like, ugh.
I love drinking
There's too
terrible
much of
light
it.
beer. You can drink a lot of it. It's fun.
You are that's the thing though, is literally my second kind of beer. The second one that I tried was Dos Equis, and then the third one was essentially like, as you said, like a triple IPA. And
Hmm.
I was like, oh, I love this IPA. It tastes like a beer.
Yeah,
I,
I
I'm
to me they taste like it's like drinking a bottle of perfume. Like that's how um that's what I always think about with IPAs. But like they're good. I just don't want more than one of them, you know? Like you don't want like, yeah, I want to have like 4 pints of IPA. Like feel like you drank like an entire pine tree by the end of that.
well, I mean, at the very least, they like my thing is that with heavier beers, they make my stomach feel more full, so it'll keep me
Mm.
from like just going through them and
Oh yeah, if you're
pounding
trying
them
to slow
back.
down, it's a good way to go.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like although also like something like Bush will make me like slow down. Bush or Budweiser or something like that. Bud Light, it's just like actually
Yeah.
Bud Light. It just kind of tastes like carbonated water with tin in it. It
Yeah.
tastes like the can.
Well, that's why it's good. It's good in like the summer, right? When you basically just want like water and get it you want water that gets you drunk, right? Because it's so hot out. Like that's the time for Bud Light. Why am I shilling for Bud Light on this stream? I don't know. Getting defensive about it.
You're also shilling for the trans flag behind you too. Talking about Target and social progress.
Trans rights brought to you by Bud Light.
Thoughts on PewDiePie? He's irrelevant to this stream. That's my thought on PewDiePie.
Yeah. I don't think any more needs to be said about that.
Yeah, that's a horse that's been beaten to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the. I have to say though, I, I I have to say though, one stream that I enjoyed watching quite a lot that I watched like I think it was like a couple months after it happened was one of your streams with Lindsay Ellis.
Mm.
That was very interesting, and it was to see her go on Twitter for a little while.
Oh,
I'm getting some strange noises from
calling.
your.
Watched like I think it was like a couple months after.
It sounds
Oh,
like a
fuck.
loose audio connection.
Uh, I'm having some issues over here.
All right, I hear you now.
Yeah, but my headphone connected because someone called me.
Okay, I don't hear you now.
All right, I can hear you. I can
Okay.
hear you now.
Okay,
Sorry,
good.
I had I had to turn off my headphones and then put them back on.
No problem.
It's a pain in the ass. Make technology better. Make technology great again. Although, I found it very funny, or I really liked hearing you talk about cannibalism and board. You're just kind of like, well, that's one of the things is maybe I shouldn't eat human meat because then I might acquire a taste for it.
It's a valid concern.
And then, and then you don't get it in an ethical way.
Yeah, well, you don't want to get you don't want to contract the hunger. Like one
Yeah.
taste of the flesh is fine, but like it's when you develop a habit that it becomes a real problem.
I mean, a lot of when I brought up cannibalism earlier in the pre-show chat, one thing I find interesting about cannibalism is that there's a lot of ritual cannibalism. Like that's kind of where it happens.
Yeah,
Like cannibalism where people are
like
getting
real
murdered
cannibalism.
isn't
Yeah,
nearly it.
yeah,
Cannibalism where people are getting murdered is way less common than cannibalism where grandma just died. So
yeah.
now we know what we're having for dinner tonight.
Yeah, this is
That kind of thing.
discussed in it's discussed in Plato actually, because like the ancient Greeks would bury their dead, whereas one of the Near Eastern civilizations around them would practice cannibalism, at least according to Plato, which might not be completely accurate. But
Might not
yeah,
be.
it seems like there's a few cultures where, like, I know in like New Guinea
Plato
anyway, there's a
wasn't
tradition of
just
this.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Plato wasn't just there to wreck everyone's asshole. Like, he wanted to do that, but there was more to it than that.
Was discussing cannibalism. Yeah.
Right. It was a
I mean, it kind of makes sense.
reference to one of your
I feel like from
videos.
a like kind of spiritual metaphysical perspective, because generally death rituals are aimed at preserving the dead in some way, right? So mummification or memorial, like burying people with like jewelry and artifacts. Cannibalism is a very obvious way to preserve them because you're sort of taking them into yourself.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
Well, the thing is that no matter what, their matter will always exist. The atoms that made up their bodies will always exist.
Yeah, that's not a very reassuring existence, is it?
Well, not everything in the universe is reassuring, unfortunately.
Alas.
Yeah. That's. Oh, there's so much to talk about in so little time. Like, I'm kind of looking at this. It's like, I want to start a new topic, but I don't think we'd be able to get off of it before you
Yeah,
have
we're
to
running out of
go.
time here for it to go. Yeah.
Although
Well,
I should have let you know before we started that you can put this or you can mirror this on your channel if you would like.
okay, thanks. I generally don't mute mirror streams. I do on other channels, but
Yeah.
thank you for
Oh,
offering.
yeah. I'm just letting you know it's your choice, but yeah. Honestly, this was a great chat, but I think that you have to go soon. So, is there anything else or any last thing you'd like to say to the chat before we go?
I'll
Like the
say
13 of them.
a couple of people asked about my next video and about Vancouver. Yeah, so my next video will be the end of the month, just for those of you wondering, end of January probably. Vancouver thing is next week in case any of you are in Vancouver. And otherwise, thank you all for watching, for listening to us. And Rose, thank you for having me as a guest. This was a fun talk.
Thank you for coming on. I
Sure thing.
have wanted to do this for over a year, and it was awesome to get you on here.
Yeah.
It was awesome to bring the queen herself, who stands at 6'2", a whopping 2 inches taller than I am.
Yeah.
Although I bet I weigh much more than you at 220 pounds, but yeah, it was nice to have you on.
Yeah.
And I would like to give a good day to the chat and see you all later.
Mm-hmm.